years now, but the cartel and many of those leading cartel organizations have become very wise in their business moves, and they call these business moves to advance a high volume of unaccompanied minors from Nicaragua, Guatemala, and Honduras to Texas, promising in those places of origin immediate amnesty, benefits, asylum, and placement with family members that no matter where they are in this country, they will receive assistance finding on a locate service those family members and being acclimated into society and eventually into citizenship. That has led to a volume which was last year at 12 to 15,000 to a pace that we will hit this year of between 110 and 115,000 in just 1 year. So as a reactionary or reactive plan that we have adjusted to at the state level, seeing that the feds will continue to not do what needs to be done from a constitutional perspective and from federal authority, that's incumbent upon them. The state has had to step in and unfortunately spend state tax dollars to renew a surge operation that we were just doing last September. And so repeatedly over the past few years, we have activated a surge operation, and they've usually been a 20, 21 day run where we send additional DPS troopers down to the border counties, and we set up a metrics or an operation that basically goes off after the worst of the bad actors, the gun smugglers, the human traffickers, and the drug smugglers. This program that they've got in place, the cartels have in place to send all these unaccompanied minors to the Texas border, has kept a lot of our law enforcement, as you can imagine, kept them busy. And that's the business plan, is to divert our attention, to keep us busy. And that's sheriff's deputies, that's DPS troopers, and federal agents while they conduct their business. One thing that we've seen for sure, and we saw it through this 21-day surge in September, is that they are definitely afraid of our DPS troopers. And that being the case, when those vehicles are out and there's more of them, they pull back. But they also hear that our surge operation has a time frame on it. And that 21-day period last September, they waited, they pulled back, and then they resumed normal operations from that point forward. Now, going forward, we have an indefinite plan in place, but it's still limited because the DPS is, has limits to what they can do and how many troopers they can send to the border region. So when I got back from a June 21st tour of the West Laco DPS Operations Center on the border, and then subsequently flew the Rio Grande in a helicopter, DPS helicopter, and then landed and ran the same river in one of our state artillery boats, we got a full briefing on what was going on with that DPS plan. But I came back and reached out to Chief Walters, who I have a lot of respect for, and wanted to come over here to the city and sit down and just say, what else can we do, knowing that that's limited and there's only so much resources in place from the state level. And the chief and I, visited quite a bit about some things that we're continuing to work on, which would allow us to have additional deputies down in the border region for training purposes, and then maybe stair step into what could eventually be an assist, where law enforcement agencies all across Texas could donate a deputy on a 3 to 7 day window. No cost to the state. The return is a more trained officer for inspection purposes, and what we have right here in Montgomery County, which is MS-13 gang activity, and more activity from the highest commerce area for drug use and trafficking in the nation, if not in the top 3, which is the Houston region. And then working on a plan where we would all be prepared locally once that indefinite surge operation turned a corner and things got back to normal, assuming that we don't have finite resources to dedicate to. So I just wanted to come and visit with you. I know you have a resolution on the agenda today which would support the governor's efforts to take action, and I just want to commend you for that. And I hope in my capacity as state representative that you'll strongly consider supporting that resolution that I think is drafted in a very common sense manner, but it's also to the point, and it lets, from a local government perspective, it lets our state officials know that one local government at a time, that this is a very serious situation, and we see the feds work on it from a politically turbulent, sort of roller coaster up and down, that they might address it when politics calls for it. I'd like to set that aside and sort of step away from the political opportunism and work on a constructive plan. And I think that your resolution really speaks to that, and with the talent that you have right here with Chief Walters and the officers that are in place, giving people like me advice on what we can do further. I just want to thank you for that and being a resource to us, and continue the outreach and making sure that I keep the communication up and that I'm listening to you at the same time. So I didn't want to take too much time, but it's a big subject and it's hard to pull it together in a couple of minutes. So.
Yes, does anybody have any questions for Representative? This will be your opportunity because he's hard to catch.
I can be here anytime, Mayor, and I appreciate it.
It's not related to this, but it's related to the immigration thing, but it's about certificates of birth abroad.
Sure.
Why do we issue American citizenship, or Texas, the birth certificates at these hospitals? Why don't we force them to get certificates of birth abroad from their consulates? That's all. Because I'm an American citizen. I have a certificate of birth abroad. I have a State Department birth certificate.
Sure.
My father was an American officer and I was born abroad. Why don't we force this at the hospitals and everything that they get the consulate to issue a certificate of birth abroad and an automatic Texas birth certificate?
It's a great point, and we've had it mentioned during the last session. I hadn't heard of that being mentioned prior from a policy perspective, but last session it did come up as something that we need to consider changing. And there's been a lot of speculation and a lot of discussion on whether or not our current president was born in Hawaii. And I know that regardless of where you might be on any certain reach of that issue, I looked into just how hospitals work on sort of certifying the actual activity of a birth taking place, and then where it goes from there. And there are 2 or 3 different designations. One, certainly not speaking just to citizenship, but just to proof that the birth took place, but only that. And then 2 more that graduate from there, and it just depends on the state. And I think the Department of Health and Human Services has a lot of latitude on how to write those rules. So we have more reps looking into that this interim.
I think that's something that has to be different.
I think so. But thank you for your time. Again, I'll be happy to come back and visit with some updates, and I just appreciate being able to work together with you on this very important issue that I think affects all of our communities, all of our schools, all of our hospitals, our roads, our criminal justice system across the board. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Council, on the resolution part of this, we had discussions with Representative Creighton and Chief Walters over a long period of time. And I think you probably get this as well. If citizens want to know, what can we do? It seems like, I wish I could do something about it, that type of thing. Well, that's where the proclamation kind of came from. One thing that we can work on that the chief is actually a phenomenal idea about getting our officers the training they need. The representative mentioned it, because we have these folks up here in our neighborhoods, not our neighborhoods, but in the area. Okay, they're not in Oak Ridge North. but they're all around us, and the problem's not going away. I think the idea of the officer program, when it's all finalized and planned out and all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, is gonna be a phenomenal program for us. But we do wanna do something, the citizens wanna do something, so I think one of the best things that we can do, and together we all kind of sat down and worded a proclamation to support Governor Perry's actions. Citizens need to know that they support, the governor needs to know, Greg Abbott, everybody in the state leadership, Brandon Creighton, Steve Tope, all the rest of our folks out there need to know that citizens are behind them. And that's the purpose of the proclamation, is to let them know that yes, we support the governor, yes, the actions that he's taken now is what needs to be done, and we're behind him 100%. And I hope he takes that, and I hope he shows it to everybody in Washington, D.C. and everywhere else he's saying. And then I hope every other community in the state of Texas does the same thing. So, having said that, have you had a chance to read the proclamation, or would you like me to read it here?
Why don't you read it for everybody here?
It's a good idea. Let me do that. Okay, resolution of the City Council. I'm sorry?
We didn't set up for it because we didn't have any graphics, so.
Oh, okay.
it would
A
take
resolution
like-
of the City Council of the City of Oak Ridge, North Texas, fully supporting the efforts made to secure our state's sovereign border, that being conducted by Governor Rick Perry and our state and local leadership. Whereas the United States government has failed its obligation to the state of Texas mandated by the Constitution of the United States by failing to protect our southern border, and whereas the southern border of the state of Texas is currently being overrun by immigrants from South America and with illegal drug cartel activity, and whereas care for these immigrants is straining our state's ability to properly care for and house them once they get here, and whereas the activity of the drug cartels are straining our law enforcement efforts, and whereas there are now over 11 million immigrants who have been living and working in the United States that are undocumented but making a contribution to society, and whereas immigration policies of the United States government are broken and the system is not working, and whereas the cost of securing the border and taking care of the newly arriving immigrants is costing the state of Texas millions of dollars weekly, now therefore be resolved by the City Council of the City of Oak Ridge, North Texas. Section 1, the City of Oak Ridge, North Texas fully supports the effort made to secure our state's sovereign border that is being conducted by Governor Rick Perry and our state's and local leadership. Section 2, the City of Oak Ridge, North Texas requests that the state of Texas take permanent action to secure our southern border with Mexico. Section 3, the City of Oak Ridge, North Texas requests the state of Texas pursue legal action against the United States for repayment of all funding used to do their job in securing our border. In Section 4, the City of Oak Ridge North requests that the state of Texas withhold the necessary funds going from the state of Texas to the United States government to pay for the expenses incurred by the state of Texas. Passed and approved and adopted this 28th day of July 2014. Council, I'll entertain your motion.
I'd like to make a motion, but I think we need to make one change in that, from what I read. If you're talking about immigrants from South America, but right now, most of them are coming out of Central America in addition to South America. So I think we need to, if it only says South, we need to modify that to say Central and South America.
In South America, everything down there, south of here?
Honduras, El Salvador, that peninsula piece is called Central America.
Okay.
As opposed, if I might,
Is that a-
and I
is
could
that
be wrong, but that's been my Yankee
It's been
understanding.
a long
from-
time since I've been in geography.
In geography is correct.
Yeah, so I would,
And
that, with
would
that
you,
one change, I would,
Okay, you make a motion with that.
with just adding Central and South America to that.
Okay,
Yeah.
a second to that?
I second it.
Motion made and second. Do we have discussion? Discussion?
I'm strongly in favor of it.
So am I.
There'd be no doubt.
I think every citizen in Texas is strongly in favor of it.
Probably not all of them, but.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. What I'd like to do now is do a little grandstand. I'd like to ask the representative to come up here. Y'all stand up here and have a picture made.